Another Frankenstein movie? How many of these things are we going to get this decade, man? Holy shit, didn't we just get one last year? I'm serious. Victor Frankenstein. That's how McAvoy says it in this movie, seriously.
Frankenstein.
He was drunk though. So Victor Frankenstein is another telling of the story of Frankenstein. This one concentrates more on Igor, played by Daniel Radcliffe. Igor is in a circus, no one pays him any respect. He runs across Victor Frankenstein, played by James McAvoy, and McAvoy's like, hey, why don't you come work with me? We can do some cool shit. So he goes and works for him and they do some cool shit. Everything that you know that they're gonna do, which includes animating dead things. Going to be completely honest with you guys about this. I was enjoying this movie. Surprisingly so, for a fair amount of it. I enjoyed the work relationship that Igor and Frankenstein had in this movie. I liked James McAvoy as Frankenstein. He was eccentric, he was an asshole, he was exactly what Tony Stark's kind of accustomed us to. It would have been great to see Frankenstein in this movie without a Tony Stark before him, but now that there's been Tony Stark, it's like every mad scientist has to be kind of a brilliant, narcissistic asshole that we all, love. But I did like his portrayal. I mean, Frankenstein is a mad scientist. Guys, he is the mad scientist. So it was a solid, interesting portrayal of him. I liked Igor also. Daniel Radcliffe did a good job, and there's a good progression of his character before. He's kind of a whipped dog. No one's ever shown him any respect, no love. And then he starts getting confidence throughout this movie, a little quick for my taste. I mean, in the beginning, he's like, no one's ever shown me kindness. This dude has known nothing but shit. Then he hangs out with Frankenstein for a week, and then he goes to this ball, and he's like, Rico Suave and shit. Don't know if I bought that. The point is, for what it was, I was enjoying it. You know Frankenstein's motivation. You know he wants to animate dead things. You know he is going outside the law to do it. Then the movie goes on. And then it just kind of falls apart in the last act. Keep in mind, this isn't as bad. But you remember in Fantastic Four, the movie wasn't good, but you could still see the moment where you're like, this is when everything fell apart in production. It's like that in this movie. Everyone's villainous intent comes to fruition, and then everyone who had a negative motivation, or maybe they were coming after Frankenstein in one way, shape, or form, they just kind of became cartoon villains. In the last act of this movie is some video game Resident Evil stealth mission that culminates in the inevitable boss fight that's at the end. Which is funny because the boss fight in this movie felt like a boss fight in one of the Arkham games. Well, one of the first two Arkham games. Yeah, there's no tank in this movie, so it can't be Arkham Knight. But like in the Soul Reaver games, you have to use your surroundings to kind of nerf the boss, and then you use another surrounding to hurt the boss, and you rinse and repeat. It's kind of like Ocarina of Time. That's what's happening in this movie, but the thing is, when a game does it, it feels more cinematic. When a movie does it, it feels more like a video game. One of these things is a positive, the other is a negative. Guys, in the end, Victor Frankenstein was surprisingly enjoyable. I like James McAvoy as Frankenstein. I like Daniel Radcliffe as Igor. I like the new direction they took, especially with Igor. Then the last act of this movie happened, and it was just shit. This movie just went from a fresh new take to a cliche monster movie, and you knew a monster was gonna be in this movie, but it didn't have to be a cliche-ass video game monster movie. And in the end, I will say there's enjoyment to be had in the first 2/3 of this movie, but I will say Victor Frankenstein's probably a better time if you're drunk. Yeah, no, it's a party. It's Frankenstein. Drunk people just say it that way. Alright guys, so Victor Frankenstein, have you seen it? What did you think about it? Or what's your favorite monster movie of all time? Whatever you thought, whatever it is, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.